How do I know it's recording? Is this this one? The red one is something else. This one probably, right? Okay. I wonder what this is. Does anyone know what this cross is? Oh dear. Oh, it's rescue time. You know what rescue time is? It's an app that sees how much you're wasting time. It basically records wherever you go, and if you pre-classify them into entertainment, social media, work. So you could trick it by recording everything as work. But I'm actually, it's keeping me honest, or it would if I looked at the results. So, all right. So go ahead and hit Command Enter. What happened? When, oh, I had to, see, it was on the wrong line. So I have to go to this line and hit Command Enter. Yeah.
I don't see that line.
You don't see that line? Oh. And that is because this is an older version of the file. Right. Click on that. Go down. Oh, here. That's HTML. You can close that one. Yeah. So why don't you put it in?
What?
Just stick it in. Just go here and make another line and put C and put this. Yeah. You have a black line. It's okay. It just means yours is nicer. Don't worry. It's just where your cursor marker is. The green one annoys me anyway. Alright. Are you all good? Where's your computer? You don't have a computer? Okay. You did it? Well then go through and you could go through and say display X. You did that. So just say X. Just follow the commands now. Go through and follow the commands. So how would you display what's in X? So if you want to check what is X, you can say X. And hit enter here. Command enter. And it tells me what X is. Now many of you might not have this because I changed it at some point and then the GSIs took it. So go ahead and hit X. You can put any numbers you like, okay? They don't have to be these numbers. You can put whatever you like. And this is just to put more than 5 things, or at least 5 things. Otherwise, the next one will give you an error. So we want to see. So first of all, someone asked me about this in class. Go ahead and go to this chunk over here and make a new line and type in length of X. Hit save. Command S. And then do command enter if you're on a Mac. Control enter. Every time I say command, if you're on a Windows machine, do control. All right. So what does length X tell you? It tells you how many elements are in that list. All right. So you do length X and tells you how many elements are in that list. And then to look at everything except the 5th element, you go here. And that tells you, do you see that it leaves out 8.17? Right? Over here. It displays everything. Now this idea, it takes your vector and the -5 says print this vector. Print it means print it to the screen. Print this vector except for 5. Now how about you try it without that minus sign? Write X square bracket 5. What does that do? Try it. It'll give you the 5th number. So if you say down here, you do X square bracket 5, that'll give you the 5th number. So this idea that you're doing here is called subsetting. And this is a very, very important part of R. So here we're doing it just for a vector. But you can do it for a matrix, you can do it for all kinds of complicated data containers. We'll talk about them later. So here we take this vector and we subset it negatively. We say, give me the whole vector except for the 5th position. Then I say, give me only the 5th position. So these brackets, square brackets, are making subsets. All right, so this is a very, it's hidden in here. It's just hidden, but this is a very powerful thing that you're using. And we'll come back to it over and over again. So you can write here if you like this, the square brackets. What am I missing something? I'm missing the pound sign, right? I put 2 only to make it clear that it is. It's just formatting. You need 1. So the square brackets indicate that we are taking a subset of X. The expression inside the square bracket is what sort of subset? I don't know if I can last till 3 o'clock. I think I'm melting. Yeah, and okay. Let's all just adjourn it too because I think I'm gonna just die of heat. I'm too old. It's been too long since I was in Delhi. Alright.
Can you scroll us down?
Alright? Just write whatever comments you want. You can write it's too hot. I can't think. And then when you want to do this, let me show you a very useful, I'm going to switch out from here. Did you memorize it? Memorize it, take it, memorize it, eat it, and then never tell anyone. Here. So let's go here and look at this, rseek.org. Now this is a very nice search engine that pulls up our help files. Okay, so suppose how to subset. I've actually never typed this in, so I don't know what will happen. But it pulls up all these things, right? And for you, for now, maybe you can look at advanced R if you feel brave, or you could not. You could just say quick R. Quick R are these little tutorial pages on R. How to subset. Let's suppose we put how to subset. Not that I'm calling you that. It's just a phrase. Oh, it has a package called dummies. We will ignore it. Dummy means something else here. Okay, quick R. Let's how to subset beginner. R and the, oh my god. Forget this, just do how to subset. Yeah. Yeah, there's a for beginners, and then they say let's scrape this data set. That immediately tells you that's not really for beginners. It's beginners of some level, right? I know. So you could just go here. Quick R is a good place to go. Quick R, and I don't know what else. That's good enough. Subset function. Now this is also depending on how your tolerance for reading very dryly written material, right? Our documentation is really good. It's really, really good. If you want to go there, you can go to the original documentation, and that tells you, which is what shows up in your help folder. So that's rseek. So I want everyone to bookmark rseek.org and just keep it there, and you can use it. So see, I have it right here, over here. It's one of my permanent little things that I have here. You go back here to the help, right? Go to help here and say you want, what do you want help on? Is anyone bewildered by any particular command? What happens if I type subset? And it gives you a help. So this is what I mean. It's written kind of dryly. So when you start out, this is the R help file, and they're really very dense and very useful. And as you get more and more experienced with it, you'll go in and you'll get more and more out of it. So when I first started, I took one look at this and I did maths. I was used to reading dry stuff, and I looked at it and I said, oh my God, look at this. And then I just skipped all this and I went in and looked at the examples. So you could do that. You could see if you can understand the examples. All right. Now, we won't do this yet. We'll do this later. We'll come back and look at it, but not now. So where are we now? Now go ahead. You see now. Now someone volunteered to tell me what's going on in this one, where my cursor is. So you see the square bracket. That tells you that it's doing a subset. How is it subsetting? It says look at x, everything that's at least 15, greater than equal to. Right? Does everyone see? It's not bigger than, but it's at least. All right, so it doesn't matter so much here because there's only one thing there's three things that are bigger and they're strictly bigger. If we had a 15, it would matter. So go in here and it gives you the x in order that's bigger than 15, right? Here, over there. All right. Then this tells you can round it to one place, 2 place, 0 places, and so on. So let's see what happens if you say round x1. You see? Did you see what happens? So go ahead and do it as you go on. Suppose you say, all right, I only want integers. Then it rounded it to an integer. This is useful if you have many decimal places and you don't want to mess it. I have, to be honest, never used this command, never had need to, but I guess it's neat if you want to view something in reverse order. Here is something that I forgot to put in, which you can stick in. I'll put it here. Why don't you make a new chunk? So go out here, go to line 109, and how are you going to make a new chunk? Right? Then what do I do? Like that. And then I'm going to, it's telling me, wait, where's your closing parentheses? And I'll just put them in. And now it's happy. You see how it immediately demarcated this gray band. So now I'm going to go up here and put my code in. And I'm going to put head x, comma 3. All right? Anyone have any ideas? What do you think that'll do? It'll give me what? The first three numbers. I hope. Let's see. So let's run it. Did it do that? All right. Do you have another command that might be cool? If you have head x3 in general, so go down here, go to the help file on the right and type in head. And see, it returns the first or last parts of anything. It could be a vector, it could be a matrix, it could be a data frame is a specific kind of data set which we'll talk about later. But it usually returns, the default is, I think it will return six things. So in this case, I put 3 because our vector is only of length 6, right? But suppose we make a bigger vector. Suppose we say x is equal to, and let's just generate some random numbers. And our norm, how many do you want? Shall we put 100? So it has 100 things. And now if I type head of x, like that, I type down there. So look down here, I type head x, hit enter, and it just gives me the first 6 entries. I can also, so go back to your chunk and write here tail x, comma 3. Save it, don't forget to save your file, and hit tail. And what is, well, now it gives me of this particular vector 3 things. So you can try all of these, maximum, minimum, and so on. So, all right, let's go down here. It didn't do it. Let's see. What didn't it do? That's because you haven't put backticks. Go back and erase those. Erase these 3 things there. Yeah. And now, this one. Did you use these? Yeah. All right. So Nathaniel, right? Yes. Nathaniel had the following problem that it didn't work. So whenever something doesn't work, you look for the first simplest thing, that you've got a syntax error. All right, you've got a syntax error, meaning so Nathaniel's problem was that instead of using the backtick, he used the apostrophe. And so I have to thank these two whose names I don't know. What are your names?
Sean. Kershaw.
What is your name?
Kershaw.
Kershaw. And yours? Artie. Artie and Kershaw for telling me it's called backticks, because I confuse people by saying apostrophe. But it's not, it's backtick. How do you enter it? You look for the backtick. Where's the backtick on your computer?
Top left.
Yeah. So it has to be slanted backwards, right? I mean, if it's looking straight, then it's not going to work. If it doesn't turn gray, you've put the wrong thing in. All right, if you want to hang out, that's fine. If you want to leave, that's fine. Because now I want you to go here and do this. How are you going to add up all the numbers and divide by 7? Sum. Very good. Sum x. And how will I divide by 7? Divide by 7. So I want to sum weight. You see how when I type in weight, it very helpfully pops up all these choices that I have. Which one do I want? The first one, weight in kilos, because that's what I'm working with right now. So I click weight in kilos, close my parentheses, divide by 7. And now I'll run this. And that's the average weight of my X in that group. So let me go here of my the weights. So first go in here and make sure you've run this, because otherwise it'll complain and saying, what is this weight? You didn't tell me about weight, and so on and so forth. So make sure you run this line so that R knows what this weight underscore kilo is. Weight underscore kg. Because if you don't run this line, try doing it without running it, then it will say weight not recognized. We don't know what you're talking about. Okay? Right? Yeah. So you run it first. You can run the chunk over there. And now, how many people are here? So then do this to see how many people's weights. And then use sum. Then use sum to add it up and divide by 7. Actually, why are there 2 chunks? Because originally I had thought we could like copy and paste and put plus, 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 plus. But then, what's your name? Sam. What is it? Samuel. Samuel came up and said, of course, use sum. And that was going to be the next chunk. There is an easier way to do this. Just use sum instead of saying 118 plus, 72.7 plus, 46.33 plus, and so on. Just use sum. All right. So now, an easier way to compute the average. That's what I wanted to say here. How do you think you compute the average? You saw it in class today. Mean. Yes. So do that here. Mean of weight underscore kilo. Save. Command enter. And down here, it gives me the mean, which is the same as summing it and dividing by 7. It gives me the mean. All right. Do you know how to compute BMI? It is, I don't know, weight divided by height squared, where weight is in kilos and height is in meters. So let's get the heights in there. I'm going to run the chunk. So now the height is in there. That's the BMI formula. And just do it this way. The trick is that R is really good with vectors. So we don't have to do it individually. We don't have to write a function that will go through the loop, which is nice. Right? You just go ahead and do BMI and let's see what that does. So go to this line and run that line. So again, command enter or control enter. Why doesn't it show me what the BMI is? Why is it only repeating the line? Why don't I see the vector? Yeah. Because you're just assigning it. I'm just assigning it. How do I see it? I'll type BMI. Very good. I'll type BMI. And now I see the BMIs. And look here. I have to tell you that's not me. over here with the 34. That's this BMI would be counted as obese, and this is just someone unhealthy here. And this is, so you see it's a numerical variable. If you want to categorize it, you would categorize as obese, overweight, normal, morbidly obese, normal. So 31, I think, is the cutoff between overweight and obese. And in case you've ever thought about it, it's an arbitrary cutoff. I don't know how many of you thought about BMI, but it doesn't take into account muscle or anything like that. So that's fine. Thank you for coming. All right. So let's see how many would classify as obese. And this gives you, so here what are we doing? Let's go back there. And it's asking a question of the vector. It's saying how many of these vectors are strictly greater than 30, which is the cutoff. And this tells you, well, the first one is greater than 30, not the second, not the third, not the fourth. The second one is greater than 30, not the fourth. Fifth is greater than 30, sixth is greater than 30, not there. So here's something cool you can do. Suppose you only want to know the fraction that's greater than 30, then you just want to count them and divide by the length, right? So one way to do that is just say, well, how many? So you say sum BMI. Let's see if this works. It seems as though it should. And what does that tell you? It tells you if the vector of 7, 3 are greater than 30. All right, sometimes you only want to do that. You have a big data set and you want to know, well, what fraction of these data satisfy some condition. And so you just say, you'll put your vector there and you'll put your condition. The condition is here is greater than 30 and you'll say sum. You could subset it that way. How would you subset? Suppose I only want to see the BMI that's over 30. How would I do it? What do you use to subset? The brackets. So go ahead, try it. Write it here. What would I write? So what's my vector called? It's called BMI. So write BMI and then square bracket. And inside the square bracket, I put BMI greater than 30. So let's see if that works. BMI and it returns to you the values that satisfy this condition. So you can imagine actually that you can put maybe some complicated conditions in here. You can say I want BMI greater than 30 and less than 35. All right? Yeah?
When you do that, are you reassigning the values
No.
of BMI?
No, I'm not reassigning it. If I want to do that, I have to put BMI and I have to put equals to, and then what happens is I'll take that big vector of 7 or 6 or whatever and compress it.
Yep.
So I'm just tossing everything else. So generally, I prefer not to do things like that. I want to keep the original vector. I might make a new vector and call it BMI obese and then do it. So that's brought up two things. And this is all it's more advanced, but it's better to think about this from now, which is when you name your vectors and when you name your variables, give them names that make sense. All right, this is just generally good practice. Don't call everything X and Y because that's not descriptive. So if you got BMI, you got weight, you give it the name BMI. Give it the name weight kilos. You can call it WT kg or something. You can call it something like that. But not only you have to read it and say, okay, I know what this vector probably has, but someone else should be able to read it and say, okay, I know what this variable is. All right? But if you call it X, then they have to hunt and see what is X. Right? X is just, you don't want to use it really. You want to use some name that people can recognize. All right. So now this tells me the first is true and so on, but I don't remember, if you look up there, the reason here is I don't remember what height went with what weight. So do you remember the command C? We just put it together, right? We put a bunch of things together and just combined them, concatenated them. It took these sort of elements. So if I put C, 1, 2, 3, X is equal to, it just puts it into a vector of 1, 2, 3. All right, that's your vector. So the same thing can be done with rows and columns. And you can make something out of it. So here what I do is R bind stands for row bind. That means combine these rows, and the first one goes as the first row, the second one goes as the second row, the third thing goes as the third row. And if they're not equal length, you'll get a big complaint. Like, what the heck are you asking me to do? They're not the same length. What is wrong with you? Something like that, to that effect. And but these we know are the same length. So we'll just say, okay, R bind. Why did I do this? What have I done here? Yeah, I want it to be 2 decimals because I hate looking at more than 2 decimals, right? So you say R. I mean, you don't know that. I'm just telling you. No, that's not serious. On your exams, never go to less than 4. Always go. Don't round. So R bind is round, and I round this, and I put the height, and then I put the BMI, and then I check to see whether they would be classified as obese. So let's run that chunk. And now what do you notice? It switched it, and it made a matrix which is numeric. Right? It made a matrix which is numeric, but these are not numeric. These are logical, true, false. So the equivalent of true is 1. The equivalent of false is 0. So when I write, you might say, how does it add up true and false? It's recorded the value of 1 for true and 0 for false. That's how when I did sum, and I did this, it gave me 3 because this was a 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. That's what was kept by it, and that's why it was able to give me 3. Because otherwise, how does it add up words? Right? So then that's how it gave me 3. So here what it's done is, this is kind of ugly, and that's fine. It's just telling you that this is, you know how you write rows and columns. So this is saying this is all the rows, blank space, comma, 1. That means it's all the rows in the first column. All the rows, blank, comma, 2. All the rows in the second column, and so on. This is the first row, all the columns. Second row, all the columns, right? You see this? What we could do, now I'm going to say, all right, let me do this, and let me call it BMI combined or something, all right? Suppose I call it like that. And now it won't display it, of course, because I've assigned it to BMI combined. And let me say, okay, what is this BMI combined? Class. Class says, what are you? Like, are you a number? Are you a vector? Are you a human? And what does it tell me? It's a matrix. Now, matrix is numerical. All right? It's a matrix. And so it's telling me that, look, I have all this here, and that's why it's put numbers here. And then once I do that, I say it's a matrix. What are the dimensions? Does everybody know what a matrix is? Okay, it's a rectangular array. All right? So dimensions of this matrix. Oh. And what does it tell me? What does 4, 7 mean? 4 rows and 7 columns. All right, that's telling me the dimension. Yeah?
Can you calculate the determinant or no?
It might be able to calculate the determinant. We won't ever.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it can do all kinds of stuff. So now what I want to do is, let's see what this tells me. So this tells me, besides matrix, I say, okay, str is a special command that you can always use to tell you basically what's in what you're looking at. This just tells me this is a matrix. This tells me exactly what they are. These are numerical values, numerical data. The rows go from 1 to 4, the columns go from 1 to 7, and these are the values. This is more useful when you deal with more complicated stuff, and you're saying, is this a matrix? Is it what's called a data frame? That's a particular way we put data together. Is it just an array of things? What's going on? Sometimes, so this command, just put it away, and we'll come back to it. str. Now, very important, people want here, and I want to emphasize, don't give names to variables that are special names in R. because I'll mess you up. Like you don't want to call something sum. You can call it sum x and sum y, but you shouldn't call it sum because sum is an inbuilt command in R. It's a function. Like str, you don't want to call something str by itself because str is an inbuilt function. So question is, how do you know what's an inbuilt function? You can go to the help and look it up and say, is there something that exists with this name? If there is, then I don't want to give this name because I'm wiping out what's in R and giving it some other functions. You don't want to do that. All right? So you want to be careful about that. Okay, so let's go down here. And we are done with this. Did that help? You can say no also, but we have to know what to do. So now tell me what was different about this session and from what happened in your GSIs. I'm going to stop the recording. Hold on, if I can figure out how. Wait.